India. Well, there's more dust, more sun, more mosquitoes, more cars.
Anything positive?
Oh, the mangoes. Oh, you won't believe the mangoes.
Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, Mera naam Jasbir Sandhu. My name is Jasbir Sandhu. I'm a Member of Parliament from Surrey North. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank Spotlight for giving me the opportunity to reach across this wonderful country of ours to tell my story, where I come from and where have I reached so far. Actually, I was born back in Punjab, India. Rudka Kala is the name of the village. I migrated to Canada in 1980. Before I tell you my journey in Canada, I want to tell you a little bit about my village because I think it's important to me that where I come from, that I remember my roots. Rudka Kala is a village in the district Jalandhar. And I grew up in that small, not fairly large village. My dad was a sarpanch of the village. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸੀ ਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਅਣਖੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਸਹਿਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਸੰਧੂ ਆ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਣਖੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਮੰਮੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਮਹਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਰੁੜਕੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਲਿਆ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਸਾਰੀ ਤੇ 1980 ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ so 1980 we came to Canada. I came with my mom and dad. My brother had sponsored us as a family class, and it took about a year to get your application done back then, and we finally reached here. And I had many dreams, going to a foreign country, country like Canada. Heard so much about it. We came here in January of 1980. And it was very cold at that time, and not knowing the language, that was another issue. So I had very limited language skills at that time. Canada ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਇਆ ਸੀ ਮੈਂ ਐਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਗਿਆ ਪੰਜਵੀਂ ਜਮਾਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਥੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਤੇ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਨੂੰ 34 ਸਾਲ ਰਹਿੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਉਦੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਬੜੀ ਛੋਟੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਯਕੀਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਟੀ ਹਾਫ ਐਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਹੁਣ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ 70-80% ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਆ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ 1980 ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਸਕੂਲੇ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ 5-7 ਜਣੇ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਭਾਰਤੀ ਮੂਲ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਜਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸੀਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਬੜਾ ਛੋਟੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਤੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਟਰਗਲ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਖਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ it's not the story is that of struggle and I remember back in 1982 I wanted to buy a bicycle and I had a bicycle actually but it was old and I asked my brother I said well can you buy me a bike and he says why don't you get half the money summer's coming up you can work in a farm and get half the money and I'll give you the other half. So that summer I worked very hard I picked berries, strawberries, blueberries and raspberries and in 2 months I earned about $2,500. There's a couple of people, the farms I worked, they're very famous in our community. Mr. Purewal Farms, I picked berry at their farm. ਤੇ ਜੋਗਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਗਿੱਲ ਅੰਕਲ ਜੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਹੱਲੇ ਵੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚੇਤਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਸਬੀਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੇਦੀ ਕਰੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਤੋੜਨ ਆਉਣਾ ਹੈ so it's very humbling over the years to have worked there. I learned the value of the money. So at the end of the summer my brother he said well why don't we go buy a bike and My brother and I knew how hard it was to earn that money. And I told my brother that I am satisfied with my old bike, that I didn't want to spend my hard-earned money for the new bike. So that was one of the lessons that I learned about the value of the money at that time. And one other story, short story aside, so I picked berries in 1982, 1983, and I picked blueberries and strawberries and raspberries. So I have not eaten strawberries or raspberries since 1982 or 1983 because I ate way too many during those summer months. ਫਿਰ ਜਦੋਂ high school ਤੋਂ graduation ਹੋਈ, when I graduated from high school, so it's very hard, hard times, especially in the beginning there. It's very difficult because I come from a middle class family, and so we didn't have a lot of money where my parents and my brother could afford university for me. So I had to start working at the same time I was going to college and university. And I remember my first job after the farming berry picking days. I actually was a taxi driver. I drove taxi when I started going to college, university, and for the next 6-7 years I drove taxi part-time, weekends, evenings, and also during summertime, Christmas, holidays. And then at the same time I also, and one summer, I drove a truck. My brother had a truck that was sitting around and I fixed it up. So I was able to drive a single axle truck locally here. And that helped me to earn money to go pay for my tuition fee, for my books. I was living at home, but I was able to get about a degree in Bachelor of Arts from Simon Fraser University. It took me about 6-7 years. But because I had to work at the same time, I wasn't taking the full course load. But it was a struggle in a sense but there is opportunity. If I wanted to get a degree, I had that opportunity and I was able to do it with hard work, whichever job I had. I didn't, there were a lot of students, my friends, who looked down on me being a taxi driver and trying to earn a living. But I was the one who actually didn't have any debt when I came through university. Some of my friends did. So I was lucky to work with Bonnie's Taxi in Burnaby. I know the manager there, George, was very fond of me, and he helped me quite a bit to ensure that I had a cab to drive during busy times. He knew I was going to school, I was struggling. So that's the part where the education part ended back in 1994 when I graduated.
Full lights, start sound, camera, action. BabuKishan's Spotlight.
As far as my political inclinations, it started with my background, as my family's background, because my dad was a politician. He was a sarpanch of Runkakala, and I remember going to rallies back in India with my dad, rallies where you protested, hike in prices, other issues, and not only that, I remember very clearly at times where there'd be a candlelit sort of a gathering of my dad's friends who would come over in a small setting. There's no light in the middle of the night there, but there'd be a candle lit there, and they would be talking about Soviet Union, China, Russia. They would be talking about the United States. So I grew up in that environment of where my dad actually would, he was a hard advocate for equality, justice, social justice of poor people. So that started back in India. And so we came here in 1980, 1989, 1990 is when I started being politically active in the community. I started out with the NDP because those were the values that closely aligned with how I grew up and where I came from. And I remember my first campaign was in 1991 with Sue Hamill, who is the current MLA from Surrey Green Timbers, and that was the first time I ever door knocked in Canada and volunteered for her campaign. Over the years, I've gotten myself involved in many social organizations. As you know, I think most of the people in Vancouver area know my affiliation with the Professor Mohan Singh Memorial Foundation. And we hold the annual Gadri Bapena Mela back in Surrey, which is a large gathering. And it was actually the first of kind outdoor event that was set back in 1994. And it's a snowball. Since then, we started off from 500 people. Now it's up to 30,000-40,000 people that come out to Bear Creek Park every August long weekend. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a voting right. We didn't have a right to buy a property in a particular part of town. And I always was fascinated by what sorts of struggles that our forefathers had to struggle through here to win the rights that we have. If I'm a member of parliament today, it's certainly because of the price that our forefathers have paid. So we wanted to honor those, make sure that future generations knew about our forefathers, the struggles they went through, that we don't repeat these things again. My political journey into Canadian politics, like I said, I was always involved in municipal election, provincial election, federal elections since 1991. But people really started pushing me to run for an office back about 5-6 years ago. And I had a lot of pressure from my friends, family, organizations I worked for, and also the party who wanted me to run in Surrey North. So I decided back in 2009 that I would take the responsibility and plunge into politics and representing Surrey North in Ottawa. It has been a privilege, it's an honor, but it's also equally a huge responsibility that people give you. When you become a member of parliament, you're representing not only the people that have voted for you, you represent everybody that voted against you and people that didn't vote. So you have a huge responsibility to represent the issues that are important in the community, the issues that should be debated in Ottawa, issues that are locally people tell you about it. I go to a lot of functions, I go to a lot of events. It's an opportunity for me to meet people and find out what's going on in their lives, what is going on at their doorsteps. I certainly go door knocking. I've been door knocking actually the year after I got elected to ensure that I keep connecting with the people to find out what their issues are. And those issues are taken to Ottawa, not the other way around, not bringing issues from Ottawa to Surrey, but taking issues from Surrey to Ottawa. That is very important to me. I take that very, very seriously. People have given me the responsibility, and I take that very, very seriously. One of the very top priorities of mine is when I go out in the community, and we always talk about how children are our future. And I totally believe in that. I think we need to ensure that our young people not only get the education, which is affordable, but also they get an opportunity to hone their skills. They get an opportunity to be the best they can. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is our young people getting into wrong activities such as gangs and violence and all that. And I have a bill in the House of Commons that will actually provide long-term and sustainable funding for organizations that actually help at-risk youth. So it's very important. This is not only for people in Surrey North. This bill will actually help organizations across Canada that provide help and identify kids that are at risk of joining these gang activities. And I know if we can help these kids at a certain age, kids as young as 11, 12 years old started getting into the gangs. If we can identify those kids and help them at that time, even if we help a handful of kids, it's well worth investing in our young people, and I truly believe in that. And I will be asking cross-party support for my bill to ensure that we provide every possible way for our kids to succeed in this wonderful country of Canada. My message, my message for young people especially, because I truly believe that our young people are our future of our country. My message for young people is that for any sort of doors for you to open, any sort of opportunities that you want to take, I think you have to have you have to do groundwork, and that is basically building a base. And the way I was able to do that is through education. I was able to get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. Education is the foundation, whether you're going into politics, whether you're going to be serving in community in any other capacity, or whether you're going to be doing business, or whether you're going to be working for the federal government or provincial government. Education, I believe, is the base for many doors for you, for young people to open. So my message to all the young people, young people across this country, is to invest in education, ensure that you go to university, ensure that you get a degree, and then I'm sure whichever field that you go into, you will be successful.